Delivering packages at midnight. The sinister secret I discovered haunting my every move. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter as the headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the quiet, haunting streets of Maplewood. Delivering packages at this hour felt like stepping into a patchwork of nightmares. Shadows flickered in peripheral vision. Every rustle sent her heart into a frenzy. The moon hung low, an indifferent watcher over the suburban cul-de-sacs. But tonight, it felt like it had something to say. She glanced at the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of movement, a flicker of something that shouldn't be there. Was someone following her? Dread crept up her spine, a cold finger sliding down her back. She dismissed it, but with every stop, the feeling nestled deeper within her chest. People she passed darted suspicious glances. Conversations stopped like knives cutting through silence. A scheme was brewing beneath the surface of their polished lives. Just focus on the deliveries, she muttered to herself, but the routine felt increasingly sinister. Every house whispered secrets to her, and she could almost hear them from behind the gray shutters. It gnawed at her. Each parcel she delivered a silent witness to secrets she might not want to know. When she reached the old barn on the outskirts of town, the air turned thick, stale with the weight of something wrong. Her phone buzzed, breaking her tension. Delivery at this location. 243 Maple Drive. Only the map had somehow brought her here, to a place that felt forgotten by time. Unmarked, eerily inviting. She stepped inside, her footsteps echoing across the dusty floor. A tremor passed through her as she discovered crumpled documents littering the cobweb shack, revealing interconnected stories of debts and betrayals. Each scrap intensified the shadows she had already begun to feel. "Mommy!" Emily's voice pierced the veil of sleep as she woke crying, claiming she saw a man in the shadows, watching their house. Panic surged. What had she brought home unwittingly, just by attending to these night deliveries? She could feel the walls closing in, each creak of her own house amplifying her anxiety. The once bastion of safety now felt like the backdrop to a horror film, where she was the unsuspecting protagonist waiting for the jump scare. Tonight, the deliveries felt like low-stakes games with high-stakes consequences. The packages were going to desolate places, each stop steeped in dread. With every new neighborhood, she unearthed chilling secrets of people she had trusted as friends, dark pasts, hidden agendas, and whispers that suggested everyone had too carefully cultivated their persona. A knot tightened in her stomach as she drove, connecting the dots with feverish intensity. As she swerved around a corner, she noticed it again, something in the dark. A figure, shrouded and obscured by the night, watched her. Panic clawed at her throat. Were these people she once waved to from her driveway somehow part of something terrible? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart thundered as she pulled up to another address, but the calm veneer had shattered completely. What kind of peril had she entered? An idyllic facade, now cracked open to reveal the chaos lurking underneath. She could feel the shadow drawing closer, a predator concealed among her community. Sarah was no longer just delivering packages. She was on the run, racing against the dark secrets of Maplewood, desperate to shield Emily from this newfound horror. The car engine hummed, standing still in the dark. She locked the doors, panic-stricken breaths punctuating the silence. The monster wasn't hiding in the rearview mirror. It was out there, smiling, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed her whole? The moment the engine fell silent, an eerie hush enveloped her car. Sarah leaned back, muscles tense, straining to hear anything beyond her racing pulse. The lights of her headlights bounced off something in the distance, a shadow shifting rapidly near a home that stood alone, its windows dark. She squinted, trying to make sense of the shape, but it melted back into the inkiness of the night. She fumbled with her phone, heart hammering like a drum. Could she even call for help? But who would believe her? She was just a delivery driver, a nobody, lost amidst whispers of a town that felt increasingly threatening. Then her attention snapped to Emily. The thought of her daughter sleeping alone filled her with dread. What if this was all connected? The man in the shadows, the strange deliveries, it was like a sinister puzzle, each piece more jagged than the last. She had to get home. As she turned the key in the ignition, doubt seeped into her mind. What if the shadow was real? What if someone was truly after her? The engine roared to life, but it felt like a hollow victory. The chase was on. With white-knuckled grips on the wheel, she pressed down harder on the gas. Her breath hitched as she glanced through the rearview mirror. Nothing. Relief was fleeting. It felt too quiet. The lens of normalcy hung like a mask. How many people were complicit in the strange happenings in Maplewood? Turning sharply past the old barn, the arc of light illuminated the crumbling structure. It stood frozen in time, as if unwilling to leave the darkness behind. A thought flickered through her mind. Were those documents she'd found connected to the shadow? She could almost hear the whispers of betrayal coiling around the town's history. Suddenly, her phone buzzed fiercely on the dashboard, jolting her. A text from an unfamiliar number flashed. "You shouldn't be here. Leave Maplewood." Her heart dropped. Was it meant for her? She thought about the faces of everyone she'd delivered to, their wary looks, the hidden glances, like they shared a secret she wasn't meant to understand. Each face morphed in her memory until they merged into one, an amalgamation of fear and malice. "No, no," she whispered, shoving her phone into her pocket. "I'm not leaving. I need to protect Emily." As she barreled down the road, her eyes darted from street to sky, alert for signs of the figure she had sensed before. Out here on these abandoned stretches, the darkness seemed alive, pulsing with intent. The moment she approached Maple Drive, panic surged again. The street lights flickered ominously, one by one, leaving only shards of illumination. Then, like a mirage, she saw the shadow again. It loomed, partially obscured by the flickering shadows. A darker patch among darkness. Adrenaline seized her throat, locking her muscles in place. She hesitated. What if she confronted it? Could she face her worst fears? Or was she playing a deadly game, inviting danger into her home? Her breath quickened. She had to keep driving. But she couldn't just act impulsively. Yesterday she was a simple delivery driver. Tonight, she was entrapped in a web beyond her comprehension. What awaited her at home? As she took a sharp turn, feeling too much weight on her chest, the phone buzzed again with a chilling message. "Come home. Just waiting for you." With her heart racing and the world narrowing around her, she pushed the accelerator, one thought flooding her mind: what if home was where the real nightmare awaited? The tires screeched as Sarah whipped around the final turn toward her street. Her hands trembled on the wheel, her breath short and frantic. Home. The word clawed at her insides, a faltering promise of safety that felt more like a trap. The house loomed ahead, its windows dark like vacant eyes staring into the void. She parked hastily, the engine still rumbling nervously beneath her. The quiet enveloped her as she stepped out of the car, a chilling reminder of the messages that haunted her. "Come home. Just waiting for you." The horrifying thought lodged itself in her mind. What if Emily wasn't safe? What if the darkness that shadowed her was hungrier than she could comprehend? As she closed the car door, the sound echoed through the stillness, almost too loud for the night. She almost turned back to her vehicle, but time was slipping away. "Emily," she called, her voice thin against the oppressive air. The front door creaked as she stepped over the threshold, trembling fingers reaching out to flick the light switch. Nothing. The house remained cloaked in unnerving darkness. "Emily!" Panic sharpened her tone, slicing through the stillness. She rushed down the hallway, the air thick with tension. Each step felt like a betrayal against the quiet, and she wished she could ignore the gnawing instinct that something was wrong. As she reached the end of the hall, a glimpse of light flickered from Emily's bedroom. Relief surged through her momentarily, a comfort in knowing her daughter was awake. But the air grew heavy again. There was something amiss. Why would she be awake this late? Mom? Emily's voice was small, a stark contrast to the darkness that engulfed the house. Sarah pushed the bedroom door open, her breath caught in her throat. Emily sat in bed, illuminated by the soft glow of a small, flickering candle on her bedside. I'm scared. Her voice trailed off, eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. What are you scared of, sweetheart? Sarah stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest as she noticed the way Emily clutched an old book against her chest. One of Sarah's childhood favorites. Is it coming back? What do you mean? Who? Emily swept her gaze towards the window, the thin curtains billowing suggestively. The man in the shadows. He was here. Terror shot through Sarah, freezing her feet to the floor. The chilling memory of the shadow she spotted earlier surged up. Emily, you have to listen to me. You need to stay close outside. A low rumble echoed through the night. The sound sent shivers down her spine. It was different, heavier. As she tried to gather her thoughts, the window rattled. Emily's eyes shot wide open in panic, and Sarah felt her own breath quicken. Mom! The book, it said, if he finds you enough. Yes, not real. Sarah's voice ascended in urgency, but doubt clawed at her resolve. The fear pulsing through the room suffocated any semblance of rationality. Another sound, a soft scraping, like nails on wood from the backyard. Her heart dropped. Stay here, she whispered, as she pulled the curtains aside, peering into the pitch-black yard. Darkness loomed, palpable and intent, as the shadows twisted and turned with twisted intent. A figure of malice, half seen yet completely felt, shifted just beyond her view. A flash of movement caught her eye, and there it was again, a glimpse of something elusive, hungry. With her heart hammering and bile rising in her throat, Sarah made a decision. Emily, her daughter, looked up, tension tightening the spaces between them. Mom? But Sarah could see it so clearly now. There was no more running. The dread that had crept into her life was here, looming like a predator. Then, the fingers curled around the handle of the backyard door. The air was thick, laden with the weight of impending doom. Get under the bed, she yelled, shock after shock flooding her senses. And all at once, she felt the house shift, the walls closing in, whispering secrets of horror and betrayal. The danger was not just outside, but embedded in the very essence of home. As Sarah turned towards the door, chilling thoughts stormed through her mind. What if home was never safe at all? The door creaked open, greeted by darkness and a chilling whisper that echoed through her being. Welcome home. In that moment, Sarah knew. The nightmare was only beginning. The door swung wide with a slow, agonizing creak, exposing the abyss that bubbled beyond. Darkness billowed in like smoke, tendrils weaving towards her as Sarah stepped back, fear clawing its way up her throat. Mom! Emily's voice was a whisper, tight with fear. The vague silhouette at the threshold held no form, only malevolence. Sarah's instincts screamed to act, to protect her daughter, yet her body was rooted to the spot, nerves ablaze. The chilling whisper floated through the air once more. Welcome home, twisting her stomach in knots. Just then, a soft thud came from the direction of the living room. It was like a heartbeat, echoing in the silence. It pulled at her curiosity, daring her to forget the oppressive darkness. The very air hung heavy, as if waiting for something to break it. Stay under the bed, she hissed, though it felt flimsy, almost desperate. Taking a deep breath, she summoned the courage to move, stepping carefully toward the living room. With each stride, the floorboards creaked in protest, a steady reminder that her sanctuary had transformed into a den of lurking horrors as she rounded the corner. The half-light from the candle flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Panic tightened her chest as she realized the shadows were no longer just dark figures. They were distorted faces, mocking and sinister. Come play with us. One of them seemed to whisper, and she recoiled, shivering at the viscous feel of their breath. Stop it, she shouted, her voice sharp, attempting to drown out the whispers. You're not real. But in her heart, She could feel their truth clawing at her. What if they were? Her hands balled into fists as she stumbled into the living room, the dim glow exposing the disorder that had overtaken the space. Furniture askew, items strewn as though a storm had swept through. "Emily!" she called again, her voice trembling, fearing the response. But there was nothing but eerie quiet, the kind that settled deep within bones, an echo of absence. Somewhere behind her, she heard Emily whimper from beneath the bed. "I don't want him to take me. Mom! Stay there. I'm coming." Sarah turned on her heels, agony feeding her every misgiving. Every instinct screamed that she was alone, that whatever was here aimed to dismantle her piece by piece. "You shouldn't have come back," another whisper told her, resonating from the dark corners of the room. Now it's too late. They were toying with her, the feeling gnawing at her insides. Cold sweat dripped down her back, and she swallowed hard, determined to confront whatever darkness had twisted itself into her life. Then, the candle flickered violently, plunging the room into deeper shadows. One moment of uncertainty, a fleeting gasp, and she was propelled to the window, needling through a sense of false safety. Outside, blotches of shadow pulsed against the faint moonlight. The figures she had glimpsed before, now gathering like vultures, eager and hungry. They watched, waiting patiently for something to unfold. For the toll to be taken, a sudden crash echoed from the hallway, something breaking. Her eyes widened, fear spiking as she turned back to the room. She could feel them closing in. "Emily!" The scream tore from her throat as she ran, adrenaline coursing through her veins. When she reached the bedroom, the door slammed shut behind her, a solid thud that reverberated through her heart. She felt, rather than saw, the shape drawing closer from the shadows. "Mom!" Emily's innocent voice was soft yet charged with a premonition of doom. Here Sarah's heart pounded furiously in her chest. She held her breath, as the walls around them seemed to hum with energy. Whatever lurked just beyond the threshold had arrived. There was no more running, no more hiding. The voices swelled, a cacophony of terror, demanding her attention. She felt the grip of something icy wrap around her throat, constricting. Here to play, the shadows hissed, slithering closer. Sarah's mind raced, a crushing guilt mixing with disbelief. She had brought them here, opened the door for the abyss. Then came the moment she dreaded most, a creeping realization that nothing she had done would prepare her for what lay ahead. "Mom!" Emily's whimper echoed once more, but Sarah understood now. This was not the end. It was just the beginning. As the door rattled violently, she steeled herself for the onslaught of horrors yet to reveal themselves. Her resolve tightened, shadowed by a singular question. What awaited them on the other side? The door buckled, shaking under an unseen force, and Sarah's heart raced as her vision blurred. She grasped Emily's arm, urgency rippling through her as she fought to maintain control. "We need to find a way out." But Emily's wide eyes were glued to the door, fear anchoring her in place. "He won't let us go," she whimpered, her voice trembling as if the words were laced with the chilling truth that hung in the air. "Shoo! Keep quiet," Sarah hissed, her own terror curling around her like a suffocating fog. The chilling whispers intensified, scraping against her mind like jagged glass. "Join us, stay forever," they taunted, writhing with sinister delight. Sarah glanced toward the window, but the shadows outside morphed into swirling shapes, writhing closer, blurring the line between the unseen and the unimaginable. "Emily," her voice wavered as panic surged within her. "We need to find a way to escape. Run to the bathroom. Lock the door." With trembling hands, the child nodded, darting toward the hallway. Time appeared to slow, the darkness closing in on Sarah. She felt their presence all around her. Edges flashing with malice, whispering, clawing, stretching fingers of despair eager for flesh. The door rattled again with a violent force, echoing through the room like a death knell. Shadows flared, casting grotesque shapes that seemed to reach out and grasp at Sarah's sanity as she bolted after Emily. Upon reaching the bathroom, she slammed the door shut, pressing her back against it, heart pounding wildly. Emily fumbled to lock it, her small hands shaking. Sarah pressed her ear against the cold wood, straining to catch any sound from beyond. They were still there. She could hear them, creeping around the house like predators stalking their prey. Open the door. Let us play, their voices twisted together like a dissonant symphony, each note giving rise to more dread. Mom, what are they? Emily's voice was a whisper, barely above a breath. I don't know. Sarah squeezed her daughter's shoulder, her mind racing as if each thought was a grain of sand slipping through her fingers. She could no longer distinguish if her fear stemmed from the dark or from the revelation that something deeply sinister had come from the depths of her own past. The walls trembled, echoes of her childhood creeping into her mind. They were back in this house they had left behind, the very house she had hoped to escape for good. But what whisperings had she brought with her? What threads of darkness had she reunited the old place with? A rasping, clawing sound erupted from the other side of the door, jarring her from her thoughts. We see you, the shadows crooned, their voices dripping like sludge into her ears. No, Sarah shouted, a frail act of defiance. She turned to Emily, whose face was pale and strained, desperately seeking comfort from her mother, her anchor in this ruthless storm. Mom, we can't stay here. We have to find Dad. Emily's voice broke, a tremor pulling at Sarah's heart. The thought of her husband made her stomach twist. Was he trapped in this nightmare too, or had he been consumed by it? Just hold on, Sarah said. But the walls felt alive, a trap that pulsed with dread. The rattling grew more frenzied, and shadows twisted around the door frame, distorting the wood into unnatural shapes. Then they came, thick, black tendrils writhing through the cracks of the door, looking for a way in, searching for her. Panic ignited inside her as she grabbed a hairbrush from the bathroom counter, raising it as a weapon. It was a futile gesture, but instinct kicked in. Fight or flight. With a sudden rush, the door creaked open slightly, enough for the ominous tendrils to snake through, dark and hungry. Join us, Sarah, they hissed, each syllable a promise of turmoil. Run, she yelled, shoving Emily aside toward the small window, desperation surging within her. But the shadows lunged, coiling around Sarah's wrist like a vice, pulling her back into the darkness. Emily screamed, fear splitting the air, a raw, piercing sound that echoed in Sarah's mind long after it was silenced. With one final surge of adrenaline, Sarah forced her aching body forward, tearing free from the shackles of darkness. She grasped Emily, fierce and unyielding, and together they broke through the small window, gliding into the chilling embrace of night. But as they fell into the yard, a shadow lingered just behind them, cold and all-consuming, planting fear in the pits of their souls. What lay ahead was engulfed in mystery, more sinister than they could imagine. Mom? Emily's voice was a desperate whimper. Sarah turned to face the house, dread pooling within her. We need to warn him because whatever lingered inside, it wasn't finished yet. And as the moon shrouded in clouds loomed overhead, they could both feel it, a looming menace rising from the depths of darkness. What horrors awaited them now? Their breaths hung heavy in the cold air, visible clouds of desperation rising between them. Sarah pulled Emily against her, both trembling as they stood on the hard ground, hearts drumming in a frantic rhythm. The house loomed behind them, dark and oppressive, its windows like hollow eyes watching them. Mom, where do we go now? Emily's voice quavered, clinging to a thread of hope that was slipping away with each passing moment. The darkness felt almost alive, vibrating with an energy that promised horror. Sarah scanned the shadows erupting from the house, her mind racing. We need to find another way in, she stammered. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. There was no safety left in that place. Those whispers, that darkness they would follow. Is Dad okay? Emily asked, clutching her mother's hand, wide eyes glistening with tears. I'll find him. I promise, Sarah managed to say, even as doubt clawed at her heart. Quick glances over her shoulder revealed the house seemed to quiver, as if anticipating their next move. She felt it pulling at her, a jagged, familiar draw that ignited something long buried within her, shame wrapped in fear. Let us go to the neighboress, Sarah finally suggested, steeling herself against the memories that flickered like candlelight in her mind, memories she couldn't afford to revisit now. She took Emily's hand and began to move toward the dark silhouette of the fence lining their yard. As they crept closer, the shadows danced at the edges of their vision, mocking them with ghastly reflections of their own fear. The laughter of children, echoing from deep within the house, washed over them like cruel mockery, shattering the silence. "Join us, we're waiting," they taunted, the voices curling around their minds, settling like a fog. "Mom, they want us to go back," Emily cried, looking up at her mother, her heart visibly pounding in her throat. "I know." Sarah's chest tightened. She had to control the fear. "But we can't. We have to keep moving." Just then, a scream, chilling and all too familiar, sliced through the night. Came from the house. It sounded like a child. "Dad?" Emily whispered, eyes wide in horror. The sound rattled through Sarah, her instincts screaming, "No, we can't go back. We have to get help." She turned abruptly, her decision sealing like a lock. They had to find someone, anyone, outside of this house's grasp. They sped toward the neighbor's house, hearts racing as they collided with the metal gate. It creaked ominously as they pushed it open. The yard was quiet, the kind of quiet that dripped with tension. Sarah's throat burned with anxiety. "Stay close," she whispered, moving fast. But just as they reached the front door, a deafening clang resonated behind them. The sound of the house slamming its door echoed in the night. Sarah's heart skidded to a halt. She whirled around, fearing what she might see. Within the darkened doorway, a figure emerged, tall, twisted, and glimmering with malevolence, fanged shadows shifting around it like vipers. "Sarah," it hissed, its voice slithering toward her like thick smoke. "You are not finished here. Come back. Come home, run, Emily," Sarah shouted, pulling her daughter close. But as she turned, the neighbor's porch light flickered out, plunging them further into darkness. Panic surged. They were enveloped, caught between the evil that beckoned and the suffocating unknown beyond their grasp. Stumbling back, Sarah tightened her grip on Emily, who was trembling and confused. "Mom, what do we do?" But as she turned helplessly back toward the looming figure, a shattering sound echoed from inside the house, fragments of memories and nightmares erupting outward, just waiting to consume them. "Run!" Sarah screamed, urgency painting each syllable with desperation. But where could they escape to now? The shadow moved closer, stretching its thin impossibility toward them, and just for a moment, Sarah thought she glimpsed a familiar face behind the shroud. The breath caught in her throat. Dad? Was he truly trapped within that nightmare? Or had he willingly succumbed to the darkness? "Mom!" Emily cried out, and as Sarah turned, an icy wave of dread washed over her. It was too late. They were not free yet. With the darkness closing in, she knew only one thing. They had to survive. But the greater truth gnawed at the edges of her mind. What would they face if they escaped tonight? What waited beneath the surface of their own history? And as the shadow lunged, a scream that felt like a knife cut through the air, Sarah realized that the past was not finished with them yet. It never would be. "Emily, this way," Sarah urged, pulling her daughter through the darkness as the figure at the house shifted, its presence clawing at her instincts. It felt like a living nightmare, tangible and oppressive. A curse they couldn't shake off. Panic surged through Sarah as they dashed toward the side of the neighbor's house, hearts pounding like war drums. The familiar outlines of the garden, faded gnomes, and dried flowers were surreal under the flickering streetlight ahead. But no one stood outside. No one was home. "Get behind the bushes," she hissed, urging Emily as they crouched next to withered hedges, shadows dancing ominously in the dim light. "Where are they?" Emily whimpered, her small frame shaking. "Do you think they can help us?" Breathless and afraid, Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tightly. "I hope so. Just stay quiet." The air felt charged, thrumming with electric tension, every creak of the house sounding like a sinister laugh echoing around them. The laughter of those children, voices now a runaway chant, filled her mind again. "Join us, we're waiting, Mom," Emily whispered, squeezing her eyes shut, as if she could block it out. "I don't want to go back." We won tea, Sarah promised, her teeth gritted. But deep inside, she was terrified. How could they escape something that was already deeply rooted in their lives? Suddenly, the sound of footsteps broke through the murmur of the night, a slow, methodical sound that echoed across the empty yard, growing closer. Sarah peered through the branches, heart thumping in her chest again. The figure loomed closer, its form shifting like smoke curling against wind. A horrible realization hit her like ice water. It was searching for them. Emily, she breathed, panic igniting in her voice. Stay low. We have to get behind the house. She knew it was a desperate plan, but they had no other choice. With her heart racing, she glanced over her shoulder back at the shifting darkness. Now, they crawled, hard dirt beneath their knees scraping painfully, the air thick and clammy. Each second felt like an eternity. The footsteps stopped. The world went silent except for the erratic thumping of her pulse in her ears. She could feel that presence lurking, almost tasting their fear. Where did they go? The voice, smooth with malice, slithered through the air, echoing off the house like an unseen predator. Sarah bit her lip, the blood metallic and warm. Mom, I'm scared, Emily whispered, eyes wide and glistening. I know, Sarah said softly, wiping sweat from her brow. But we have to be brave. Just a little longer. She reached toward Emily, squeezing her shoulder as if to channel her strength into the child. And then the sound of shattering glass ripped through the stillness. The back door of the neighbor's house exploded outwards, and splintered shards rained down like twisted confetti. A scream echoed, piercing through the night. It was a horrible, terrified howl that sent shivers crawling down Sarah's spine. Mom! Emily cried, her grip tightening as uncertainty flooded the air. But Sarah's instincts kicked in. She stood, practically dragging Emily as they sprinted toward the far side of the house. They had to hide, had to find a place to slip away from this nightmare. As they rounded the corner, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. In the tiny alley behind the houses, an old, rusted gate opened into a narrow, dark passage. Was this an escape route? Or a trap? Is that a way out? Emily trembled beside her, glancing back toward the chaos. I don't know, Sarah admitted, a cold dread settling in her gut. But we've got to try, Emily cried, her voice lifting with desperate hope. With trembling hands, Sarah pushed the gate open slowly. The rusty metal groaned like tortured souls. The darkness within beckoned, thick and oily. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited them was more dangerous than what they were leaving behind. But if they stayed, the choice was agonizing. We won't stop until we're safe, she finally whispered, steeling herself. They couldn't go back. They couldn't as they stepped into the passage. A voice dragged through the night air once more, this time laced with contempt. You think you can escape, dear Sarah? It echoed, crawled inside her mind. Mom, please, let us go, Emily urged, pulling at her sleeve. Just keep walking, Sarah murmured, dread pooling in her stomach. But deep in the blackness of the alley, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a flash of something familiar and wholly unsought. She could feel her breath quickening, a haunting recognition. Something's there, she gasped, dread flooding her veins. But what was that familiar figure lingering at the edge of the darkness, lurking just out of reach? And as they moved deeper, the echo of laughter began again, a sound of children playing, ringing hollow with foreboding. What were they hoping to find? And what, or who, lay waiting for them in the darkness? The darkness closed in around them as they moved deeper into the alley. Each step felt heavier, as if the shadows themselves were reaching for Sarah and Emily, pulling them back toward the nightmare they had just fled. Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her ribs, each beat a reminder that time was running out. The laughter grew louder, a maddening chorus of children, sweet and sinister. Mom, I don't like it here, Emily whispered, her voice quaking with fear. Sarah could see her daughter's wide eyes reflecting the pale moonlight, a mirror of her own horror. Just keep close to me, Sarah insisted, but even she felt the tremor of uncertainty in her own voice. She scanned the passage, desperately searching for anything that might offer them hope. Ahead, the darkness seemed to pulse, alive with unseen dangers. As they reached a bend in the alley, Sarah spotted a metal door half hidden beneath layers of peeling paint and rust. It was ajar, a thin sliver of light peeking through the crack. There, she pointed out, her instincts screaming that they had to investigate. Emily hesitated, her small frame trembling. "What if it's worse?" she asked. "We have to take the chance," Sarah replied, the words feeling heavy on her tongue. "It might lead to safety." With each hesitant step, the laughter morphed into a low hum, weaving itself around them, creating a disorienting soundscape. The door groaned as Sarah nudged it open wider, the light spilling onto the grimy floor, illuminating the path ahead. The air reeked of mildew and something more metallic, a smell that turned Sarah's stomach. "Mom, I don't want to go in there." Emily's voice was a desperate plea. "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said, the old instincts of a mother battling against fear. "But we need to find help. Just hold my hand." They stepped inside, and the door creaked closed behind them with a finality that sent a shiver of foreboding down Sarah's spine. The dim room was empty, save for broken furniture stacked against one wall and a cracked mirror on the opposite side. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Something about the mirror felt wrong. "Emily, stay back," she whispered, moving cautiously toward the glass. It reflected the light, but it was smeared, like someone had touched it with something darker. She leaned in, breath hitching in her throat. "Look, Mom." Emily's voice trembled, pointing past her shoulder. As Sarah turned, her heart dropped. The door they had just entered was gone, replaced by a solid wall, as if it had never existed. "What? How is this possible?" Panic gripped her, clawing at her thoughts, making her dizzy. "Mom!" Emily cried out, but she was too consumed by terror to respond. The laughter returned, louder now, echoing around them like a taunting wind. Suddenly, the mirror flickered, showing a shadow behind them, a tall, dark figure that seemed to resonate with the echoing laughter. It was watching them intently, its features indistinguishable, shrouded in darkness. "Dear Sarah," it whispered, voice dripping with malice, sending ice coursing through her veins. "Why did you come here?" "Emily, run. Get away," Sarah yelled as the figure stepped closer. The room began to twist, the wooden floor creaking and buckling beneath them, like the very structure was responding to the figure's presence. "Mom!" Emily screamed, backed into a corner, trembling as the shadow loomed large, filling the small room with suffocating dread. Just then, a light flickered from the corner, illuminating a dusty, old cabinet with its doors slightly ajar. "In there!" Sarah shouted, rushing toward it, urging Emily to follow. But as Emily turned, the figure lunged, its hand reaching out, elongating like a nightmare spilling into reality. "Join us," it hissed, as the bitter smell of decay surrounded them, with terror gripping her heart. Sarah slammed the cabinet door shut just as a chilling scream echoed around them, cutting through the laughter. "Mom, what do we do?" "Stay quiet. We can't let it find us." The muffled laughter began to rise again, the walls vibrating with its cruel gaiety. Sarah pressed her back against the rough wood, holding her breath, praying for a way out. But the vibrations in the walls transformed into something more sinister, as a voice seeped through, relentless and merciless. "You cannot hide forever, dear Sarah. We will find you." And then, from the depths of the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes emerged, fixing on them with an unyielding hunger. Sarah's heart raced as she clutched Emily close. Whatever was out there, they were not safe yet, and the darkness was still hungry. What horrors awaited in the hidden corners of this cursed place? And was there truly no escape? The sound of Emily's whimpering filled Sarah's ears as the haunting melody of laughter twisted around them, coiling tighter like a noose. The cabinet felt small and stifling, the air thick with the scent of decay. Panic surged through her as she held her daughter close, the warmth of Emily's body a stark contrast to the icy grip of terror that enveloped them. The murmurs grew louder, a maddening chorus. Join us," the voice was both a whisper and a shout, merging the shadows with a sinister rhythm, like a heartbeat reverberating through the walls. "What do you want?" Sarah called out, her voice shaking, though she tried to hold on to some semblance of strength. "Leave us alone." The laughter crescendoed, overwhelming her senses. It echoed from all directions, bouncing off the cabinet, seeping through the walls, drumming against her skull. "It's too late for that, dear Sarah. You chose to enter our realm. Now you must pay the toll." Her heartbeat drummed in her ears, almost drowning out the chilling words. "What toll?" she gasped, her breath coming in short, shallow puffs. The suffocating atmosphere weighed down on her chest, making each breath a struggle as if in response. The floor trembled beneath them. The dull thumping intensified, a reminder that they were not alone in this accursed place. Something unnatural prowled just outside their fragile sanctuary, seeking entry with a dreadful hunger. Mom Emily's voice trembled fiercely, her small hands gripping Sarah's arm. Memories of laughter and safety vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread. "I don't want to die." "Neither do I, baby. Just stay close." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand, feeling the warmth slip through her fingers like water. She had to find a way out. The glowing eyes flickered again beyond the cabinet door, searching, probing. "You cannot run. We will take you. You will become one of us." "No." Sarah shook her head vigorously. "I want to let you. I want to." The door rattled violently, rattling the entire cabinet as the figure outside pressed on, whispering dark promises of companionship and eternal joy, weaving visions of families long lost. "Mom!" Emily cried, rising panic taking hold of her small frame. "What if it gets in?" Sarah's mind raced, desperate for an escape. Then she remembered the mirror. "The mirror, it's cracked. Maybe we can use it to." Before she could finish, the cabinet rattled again. The lid creaked slightly, and a new sound pierced through the sound of claws scratching against wood, persistent and maddening. Her breath hitched as chills coursed through her. "Join us," the shadow hissed, this time with a malicious glee. Sarah pressed a finger to her lips, shushing Emily just as she caught another flicker of movement by the mirror. It wasn't just reflection, it was a glimpse into another world. A world of flickering lights and laughing children. "Mom, it's getting in." Emily squirmed, and Sarah tightened her grip, her heart racing with urgency. "Look at the mirror," she urged. The cracks shimmered, hinting at something beyond, a faint light breaking the darkness around them. "We have to break the mirror." "Are you crazy?" Emily gasped, her wide eyes full of fear. "Trust me," Sarah declared, gathering every ounce of her courage. She reached for the edge of a jagged shard that reflected the terror behind them, steeling herself against every instinct urging her to flee. With all her might, she aimed for the mirror, her heart pounding as she shouted, "We're going to break it. On 3. 1, 2." Suddenly, the figure behind them lunged, reaching through the cabinet door, its fingers grasping with unnatural speed. 3. Sarah cried, smashing the fragment of glass into the mirror's surface. Everything erupted in a blinding flash of light, and just before they were engulfed, she caught a glimpse of 1,000 lost souls, writhing in shadow, calling out. Then, darkness took them in the void. Emily's voice faltered, fear clinging to every word. "Mom, where are we now?" And just ahead, another pair of glimmering eyes pierced through the blackness, waiting patiently, hungry. "Mom? Stay close," Sarah uttered, but her voice carried a tremor. This was just the beginning. She didn't know how they had landed here, or worse yet, what awaited them in this new realm. A sliver of unease crept into her thoughts. What horrors would this darkness unveil next? In the void, uncertainty clung to Sarah like a heavy shroud, wrapping them both in a cocoon of speculative horror. Her heart thudded, a relentless drumbeat against the silence. Emily South's small frame huddled close, trembling with a fear that felt palpable, merging with the darkness around them. "Mom?" Emily's voice broke the stillness, a whisper tinged with confusion. "Stay by me," Sarah replied, her tone strained. But inside, doubt churned like a tempest. They had escaped the house, but what was this new prison? The nothingness was thick, swirling with shadows that felt alive, and the glowing eyes continued to watch, unblinking. Whatever lay ahead was waiting. She could feel it. "Where are we?" Emily asked, looking around as if the darkness might offer some solace. "I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll figure it out," Sarah reassured, though she could feel the lump of fear in her throat threatening to choke her. She wouldn't show weakness. Not now. Suddenly, the shadows around them stirred, and a voice slithered forth, shattering the silence. "You thought you could escape, but there is no escaping the truth." Sarah's instinct screamed. "Get ready." The darkness twitched, forming into shapes a twisted backdrop that painted itself with ghostly figures echoing familiar faces. Friends, neighbors, people she had once known. They emerged, distorted and malicious, eyes hollow and smiles cruel. Whispers intertwined in a chaotic symphony, like a taunting lullaby. "Join us, stay with us, no," Sarah shouted, stepping protectively in front of Emily. "Leave her alone." The figures blurred, their voices congealing into a singular threat. "You cannot protect her. You brought her into this world." Images flashed in Sarah's mind, moments from her past secret meetings in dark alleys, silent agreements made in hushed tones, and shadows from her childhood that had come alive in her adulthood. Dread flooded her again like ice water, and she steeled her resolve. "I won't let you take her. Oh, we simply want to embrace her. Just like you." The laughter thickened around her, mocking her every word, echoing through the darkness and clamoring against her skull. "Mom, I'm scared," Emily whimpered, clutching Sarah's arm tighter. "I know, babe, but we're gonna find a way out. Just stay close to me and trust me." Gathering all her courage, Sarah turned towards the shadows. "I won't let you have my daughter. I broke that mirror for a reason, didn't I? So we could escape from your grasp." The shadows flickered, moving erratically as terror clung to them. "You know that a part of you is always connected here, Sarah. You can never fully escape." With a rush of determination, Sarah straightened her shoulders. "Then we'll force our way back. Together." She grabbed Emily's hand, resolutely pulling her forward. "We have to confront whatever it is we're afraid of. This darkness feeds on fear. We can't let it control us." As they stepped forward, the figures began to swirl like a violent storm, teasing them with taunts of abandonment and loss. "Did you forget us? The safety of companionship? We're not afraid of you anymore," Sarah shouted defiantly, even as her heart raced. The wind howled, slamming against her like a tangible force, but they pressed on. And then they saw a light flickering just ahead, soft yet inviting amidst the swirling blackness. A doorway, perhaps, back to the world they knew. The shadows shrieked, an amalgamation of cries filled with rage as their power wavered against the glow. "Mom, it's the way out," Emily exclaimed, pulling Sarah toward it, her stride filled with newfound hope. "This is our chance." With Emily's hand firmly in hers, Sarah charged towards the glowing light, cutting through the oppressive shadows as they screamed in despair, their forms attempting to reach out and grasp them. The light expanded, growing brighter, engulfing them both. For a moment, Sarah could hear the whispers and laughter drown out, replaced by silence. Then boom! They tumbled forward, spilling out from the darkness into the familiar comfort of Emily's bedroom. The walls were warmly painted, the moon still shining as it always did over the sleepy suburban landscape outside. But the experience lingered like a haunting melody in their ears. "Mom!" Emily shouted, her voice rising with a mixture of joy and confusion. "Did we? Yes, we made it," Sarah breathed, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace, trembling limbs succumbing to the rush of relief. The warmth of safety, a low murmur, a distanced echo, grew dim as they returned to reality. But Sarah knew the darkness was enduring, always waiting for shadows to fade back into light. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the dresser. Looking over, she saw an unsettling message from an unknown number. "You can never escape." Her heart sank, but she held Emily tighter. "No matter what," she whispered, her voice steady now, "we've faced it. Together. Every shadow in this world cannot take away the love we have." Their eyes met with unwavering resolve. They had escaped tonight, but darkness would always linger, metamorphosing into the fears they'd yet to face. And she'd be damned if she let it consume them again. The rustling outside stirred, the moonlight draping the room in soft shadows, but Sarah was ready. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her family in that moment. The shadows whispered their infernal lullabies, but they would live to face another day, together. And as they sank into sleep, the promises of dawn emerged, a new beginning, a guarded peace to hold on to. Only the faintest echoes of darkness lingered, because the battle was never truly over, but Sarah knew one thing. They would fight, side by side, with unyielding strength. Remember, happiness is also in fighting against the darkness. If you're feeling the intensity of this story, now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive tales. Smash the like button now. Your engagement fuels us and helps others discover this thrilling journey. And don't hesitate, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans stick together, and we can't do this without you. Join this journey now, because the next story awaits, and you won't want to miss it.